he was his father all along. He was always dead. The whole time. And you know what? The mojo was inside of him the whole time. He never lost his mojo. He never lost it.
The following podcast contains spoilers for A Colt is My Passport. You haven't warned!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glen Button, along with your host, Miguel Magusto.
Hello, good sir. How are you?
My necklace and shit's all fucked up from that tumbleless fall.
As is tradition.
Not too bad. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm excited that this movie has no nudity for me to cover up while we're recording this. And
I'm also excited not to be a still frame.
Yeah, hopefully you're not a still frame.
That was a pain in the ass to edit.
I can imagine. You killed it. You did way more than I would have done. I would have just kept the still frame and not changed it at all. But you made it like a little.
Well, about halfway through, I was
animations.
like, this kind of is boring as shit to look at. And then I
Yeah.
just added like I was kind of like stop motion.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. But how you doing?
I'm a little sweaty after that, I'm not going to lie. But other than that, I'm not too bad. I've been watching a movie or two, believe it or not.
I do believe it because we've talked about it.
It is a little bit of homework, but I have to get around to these 2023 movies that I have not gotten around to. And the first one I did get to was The Holdovers, which came out pretty recently. So I like, it's still in theaters, but I still kind of just missed it a little bit. But I did get my eyes on it. Genuinely, it was really good. Paul Giamatti, one of the best human beings in the world.
Absolutely.
Period. Overall. I thought it was a great movie. I think other people liked it just a tad more than me.
I'm probably one of them.
But I have, but I have no gripes with it in any sort of way.
Yeah.
It's just, I think other people enjoyed it more than me, but I still overall enjoyed it a shit ton.
Yeah, that's a movie that grows on you. I was kind of in the same boat you were the first time I watched it, and then I watched it the second time. It got better every time I watched it. So
I would definitely smack this into the Christmas catalog, as they say.
In my opinion, it's one of the best Christmas movies ever made. So
preach, brother. Amen.
Yeah.
And after that, I had watched Onyx, the Fortuitous, and the Talisman of Souls.
Yes. I don't know.
Which is kind of a random ass movie. But that guy is hilarious.
Yeah.
Andrew Bowser. He's always hilarious on his little skits that he does. And it was cool that he got this movie even made in the first place.
Yeah, my favorite line in that, he goes, "Oh fuck, she's a ghoul." Cool.
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's hilarious. I think I said before when you had been when you were talking about this movie when you first saw it, is he reminds me of my Aunt Heather, who's like just along the same personality as that, not like to that dimension, but like same sense of humor and all that. Yeah. I think she would genuinely love this movie if she saw it.
Well, she's got to check it out.
She's got to check it out for sure. Yeah. But other than that, I had only watched A Colt is My Passport.
Well, it's a partial lie, but we'll get
it is
to
a
that.
partial lie, but it is.
Yeah, as is tradition.
It's weird having this 2-week gap now and not knowing what I did actually see. I already had that fucked up to begin with, but still.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As is tradition, I watched a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to go through everything because we are trying to keep these shorter. The first one I do want to talk about, Tetris, the corporation biopic, is like one of the first ones. Surprisingly, actually, really good. Taron Egerton plays, I forget the guy's name, but he's the American that like buys the distribution rights to it, and then it's this whole thing with Russia, and all that, and of course it's exaggerated, but not as much as you might think. I was reading up on it towards the end. Pretty much the only things that were exaggerated was his translator was a KGB agent, and he knew that the whole time. But in the movie, they make it like he doesn't know it.
Oh.
And then there's no car chase at the end because you got to throw a car chase in.
I mean,
movie like
it's
that.
not a movie. If you don't
but
have a car chase.
surprisingly good. From what I hear, all these corporation biopics, which I do hate the idea of, they've all been pretty good so far. Like I hear Blackberry's pretty good, Air's pretty good. So if they make good movies, I don't mind them happening. But
it's just a weird existence that they are being made.
Yeah. But this one was more about just the logistics of, dealing with Soviet Russia to get the rights of a video game and all that.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack is a banger.
Ooh.
It's like a cinematic version of the Tetris theme throughout a lot of it.
That's pretty cool.
I watched Wonka, which was better than I expected. Not crazy about it, but still, I thought it was going to be horrible. It was actually pretty decent. I enjoyed it. Watched Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond documentary about Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon. I like Jim Carrey's work, but the more I see about him behind the scenes of anything, the less I like him as a person. Again, I don't know him personally. He could be great, but the way he comes off when he's in interviews, and this is entirely his fault. It's not like editing or anything. He just kind of comes off as an asshole. And I don't vibe with that. I don't dig it. He seems very unaware of the kind of person he is, or worse, he's aware and just doesn't care.
I think we had talked about that a couple weeks ago, and that's a whole thing to unpack that probably shouldn't even unpack.
I don't want to. I speak a little more harshly about it when I'm talking in private with you. I don't want to do that. Just because I legitimately don't know him. I know Terrence Howard more than I know Jim Carrey, and so I don't want to speak ill of him. But I just don't like the vibe he gives off anymore. But I still love his work. Then I watched Godzilla -1 minus color with you, the one you did forget. And that one, we watched Godzilla -1. You have a review for it because I was on our not really paternity leave because I don't get paid for it, but.
Yeah, it was still in that early term of just being home with the babes.
So we saw it, and without color, and I liked how it felt more like a classic movie. I don't know if it's the version to watch, but
I definitely enjoyed the color version more.
It is a pretty grade, the color version,
especially when he's like spewing that atomic breath and everything. I think it's just you gotta see that in color, and then with that silence. But they did grade it very, very well to the black and white. Like I saw what they could have had done, like just put a black and white filter over it. But they like graded it so well with the black and white and just made it like its own type of thing instead of just like putting a black and white filter on it and saying it's like a 70-year anniversary.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. I see that movie in theaters if you can because it really is.
Please see it in theaters. It deserves it.
I watched a few others, but just for the time's sake, we'll just get into A Cult Is My Passport, which we'll talk about right now.
今降りた。逃げも隠れもしねえと言ったはずだ。人気のないところで俺をやりたければ、明日午前7時、埋め立て地へ来い。
兄貴、俺たちはこうやってただ殺されるのを待ってんのかよ。
こんなことはこれまでにも何回かあった。その度に俺たちは勝ち抜いてきた。
会いたいぜ、ただ一人、鳩場に
A Colt is my passport. A hitman is hired to kill a mob boss. After the deed is done, he and his driver are wanted, dead by rival gangs who joined forces.
Yes, directed by Takashi Nomura, written by Shinji Fujiwara, Hidaichi Nagahara, and Nobuo Yamada, starring Joe Shishido, Jerry Fujio, Chitose Kobayashi, and Ryotaro Suji. Again, apologize for the mispronunciations. That is always the disclaimer when we're dealing with international films.
We're just bad.
Yeah.
Bad with the tongue.
So this, of course, came up on Streaming Roulette, and it was the one we wanted to pick. So that is why we watched it. And I was very excited for this because, you know, I've never seen a classic Japanese gangster film. I've seen some of them from like the 2000s and all that. But
yeah, we've seen like modern age ones. For sure.
Yeah. And I was surprised at how inspired by westerns this was. Now I know that American westerns are largely inspired by samurai films. So I am not sure exactly who exactly created that style specifically with the music, because the music in this feels like it could be in a spaghetti western.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, you have like the whistling that I can't do. I would try to imitate it, but I can only whistle a little bit.
Yeah, I can only imagine how it sounds on here too.
So when that started, I was actually more excited to watch this because it seemed like it was gonna, feel like a Tarantino movie kind of. But instead, it was a Takashi Nomura movie. But Glenn,
yes,
what did you think? Give me your initial thoughts.
Well, I'm glad you actually brought that up because that was probably my major note that I had mentally. Was definitely the music. Even just the overall tracks that they had were all super good. Like you said, they were all spaghetti western style musics.
Spaghetti Western could have stole it from Japanese films. We don't know the history, but
I'm just a wee lad. I don't know shit.
Yeah, but from our perspective, it is heavily inspired by spaghetti westerns or just westerns in general.
Yeah. So like that whole thing was definitely cool to, especially see in like a gangster gun type movie, instead of just like rodeo baby, I'm gonna sling this lasso over you. You're my prisoner. Yeehaw. No, it was definitely cool to hear those tracks. I think the biggest remark that I have against it is this movie's an hour and a half, and like 2 of those tracks repeat over and over and over and over. Like you'll be getting into this one serious scene like halfway or over halfway through the movie, and then it'll kick on that song again, and you're like, man, it like kind of takes away from the moments of them talking and like having this deep discussion. Yeah. And you're like, oh God. But then you're like, man, the song is a banger, but it still takes away it still takes away a little bit. There's even a song that his partner plays, just trying to relax his mind. He's just strumming a song, and even that was even Western styled.
Yeah, it's like a campfire scene, but without the campfire.
Yeah, they all just buckle down for the night around a campfire, and he's just, all right, I'll play Wonderwall. And but even the song he played was even like, again, felt inspired by like those types of moments in westerns where they just like do hunker down for the night and just kind of vibe. But the music was awesome. As far as overall movie, I was really enjoying this a lot. I can't say that I personally have seen at least a Japanese type gangster film, especially ones that deal with like Yakuza clans. Not that.
Is that the correct pronunciation of Yakuza?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't pronounce a lot of things correctly.
Yeah, it just took me a second to realize what you were talking about.
Yakuza.
Yeah,
it's always been mixed up between the two. Feel free to tell me what it is, people of the internet. You know, I wouldn't be
surprised if it was Yakuza, because that sounds more like a Yakuza. Sounds like a very Americanized pronunciation.
Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. But I can't tell you what the earliest form of movie was that I've seen with like Japanese gangster films and dealing with yakuza and such, like, or yakuza. So this was the earliest, the one that I believe that I've ever seen. Because if you get any earlier than that, I think it gets into the samurai type films more than it is gangster films.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm probably wrong there, but still. What I'm getting at is this is still like a breath of little fresh air to breathe in, a nice change up from what you see from usual different type of Japanese films that we've at least seen on the podcast and such like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I am with you there. I loved it. I thought it was a cool. It was just a cool film, you know. It's a little slow paced, but I think that was again. Either that's just how these kinds of movies were made, and then westerns stole it, or you know they borrowed it from westerns and all that. But it is very slow, but that kind of helps with the suspense a little bit.
Especially since the main character is kind of just so suave and relaxed that he kind of has to take it all mellow
he's
throughout the whole movie. He's kind of monotone
the entire time, which you know normally would bother me, but it kind of worked for this character. Without getting into it right away, for me, slow-paced movies need to have a payout in the end, and this absolutely has a payout in the end with the shootout that they have.
Yeah,
it's just it leads to a great set piece, kind of like a high noon visit. Only it's 7 a.m., not high noon.
Yeah,
but you know, an arranged meeting where they're gonna fight each other and all that. So it's. I just loved I hate using this because I feel like I'm too old to use it. I've already used it a couple times this podcast. I love the vibe of this movie.
Oh man, you didn't just say vibe, man.
I did. I'm too old to say it, but I've said it multiple times already.
That's cap. That's old as fuck.
That's lit and bass and I don't know, Riz and
that's where we draw some lines.
Yeah. If I ever use the word Riz unironically, just shoot me in the head, please.
Yeah, I got you. The Colt is my passport.
Yes. But it was just such a cool movie. It felt like the kind of movie that Quentin Tarantino would be inspired by. In fact, a lot of the images that come up on the IMDb page are of like Reservoir Dogs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a simple movie. It doesn't go too crazy until maybe towards the end, but even that's not that crazy. And it's just I love the Western vibes. I know I've talked about that a lot, but it's just a really fun watch. And I don't know how much more I can say without talking about that ending, because that ending, I was on the edge of my seat. Like that shot with him running while they're shooting at him.
Yeah.
And the camera's moving with him. Some of the camera work in this.
The camera work was phenomenal.
For what year was it? 1967?
67, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably when they started, like, everyone started experimenting with, like, camera movement and everything. But some of the camera movement in this is just phenomenal and just adds so much to the shot that any given shot. But the shot of him running and the camera's moving along with him was just such an intense, cool shot that I was on board. That entire
the ending, like you said, is a huge payoff. I do want to get to that eventually. Yeah. But we should probably pad some time here for sure.
Yeah.
I think all the characters in this movie were just genuinely really cool. Like the world building of itself was just like, it felt like we're comparing this movie to a lot of things, but it's kind of all we have. But for what I'm about to say, it kind of felt like a not to the same extent, not even close, like a John Wick like world building where these hitmen and then the Yakuza are trying to, hire these dudes to take out these other people because, they were embezzling money and shit. And they're like,
there's a hotel that is known to protect them. And
there was a whole hotel. It was like, hey, stay here, lie low.
Also, that truck stop is a lot like a saloon in a Western, too.
Yeah.
Where it's just like everyone's kind of rowdy and
now, obviously, not everybody
waitresses
at that hotel were assassins, but it felt like that type of world building. Not saying it's John Wick, but like obviously this is way before that. But it felt like really cool, like that world building where like there's these people that obviously Yakuza is a huge thing, where they've got their own. That's like a whole John Wick thing, period. But like it was really cool to like the world building and the characters and seeing like how it all goes down in this story. And then just like how nonchalant was his name Shuji was the whole time, or Kamimura. The main hitman that we're following the whole time, just how nonchalant he is the whole time, how he knows he's like, this is just another thing I just gotta get out of it. I always get out of it, and this is just another one that I gotta get out of. He was really cool. Shun was really cool. Obviously, he's like very much more hyper fixated on, he's young, he's new to this, he's probably gonna fucking die if he does the wrong thing. And then you got Kamimura, who's just like, nah, we're good, man. He was like Matthew McConaughey of the whole thing, just more serious. It's all right, man. We're gonna get out of here. It's fine.
Yeah.
But everybody was cool. Even Mina was pretty cool. She had her whole little backstory and how she is, why she is how she is, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just generally the whole aspect of all the characters and stuff were really awesome.
I mean, this is a major nitpick because it didn't ruin the movie for me. But going back to Kamimura, the main character, he was really cool and like suave and everything. But there were some shots because of his jowls that he reminded me of McLovin.
Yeah.
So every now and then, for half a second, I was taken out of it. But then, like,
he looks exactly like a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I won't shout out their name if that's. I don't know if they'll take that as a bad way or not. But they look exactly the same.
It's not a bad thing. It's just they have the same kind of cheeks and that.
That's exactly what it is mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, and
he's suave too. He's a suave dude.
He's very suave. It's just every now and then the angle. I was just like McLovin. Okay, so sorry. But again, that's just because we live in the modern era and Superbad has come out. If I saw this before Superbad, I would not have thought that at all.
Yeah. But like, this guy looked like he can give birth to a McLovin.
He looks like he has a fake Hawaiian driver's license. A Colt is my fake Hawaiian driver's license. No, but he was still like, just completely cool and calm the entire time. I love in the beginning how they go, the guy who's hiring him to assassinate the other gangster boss.
Yep.
They go to all these locations and he's telling them, I was like, oh, that's bulletproof glass. That's bulletproof glass. And then the next day they go back and they show those same locations that they were standing, but they're empty. And the entire time you're just like, what's his plan here? And it just reveals that he, was pretending like he wanted to rent an apartment in order to get a shot at the backyard. And I thought that was just such a creative way to build suspense, is like showing the day-to-day 2 times in a row. And then, the second time it's just empty and you're just waiting for him to pop up.
Yeah,
it was so simple but so effective.
The technical aspects to this too were really cool. Like he's like constantly he's wiping down like locks or anything that he touches so he doesn't get any fingerprints taken from obviously his hands. Or like even like the things that he builds throughout the movie. Like so they build like Shun puts fake or like second brakes in the car that they get kidnapped in the beginning. And so like they install second brakes so in case something happened, like they got kidnapped and slam those fuckers.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's
and
that.
The mechanic was like, I understand souping it up, but why the second brakes?
Yeah. And then obviously later where Kamimura is building a bomb. So the whole technical aspect and what he could do was really impressive too, and just wiping fingerprints. He had his whole assassin thing down before 1970, so that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's way more we can get into with that, but goddamn, he's so suave, man. He's so suave.
But going back to he really did kind of feel like MacGyver in a way, where he would just like get random things and make a bomb that it has magnets in it, so it attaches to the bottom of a car. That has bulletproof glass, so he can't shoot out the glass. It just set up from beginning to end everything that was kind of
and I'm
going to happen, and that's a sign of a good script, is when things are set up and then paid off in the end. It really impressed me with how, you know, complete the thought process was for every little step of the way.
And I'm glad like they had him take the time to like take notes and like watch what his enemy is doing. So like he didn't just assume that they had bulletproof glass and that's why he made the bomb. He saw that they had he took the notes. He went and did the research before crafting this whole shebang. So I thought that was really, because some movies would just like, oh, I've got to build a bomb. I don't know why I came up with.
I'm gonna need a gun.
I'm gonna need a bomb. Give me your closest watch.
Yeah.
So I thought a lot of his, like the technicality of his character is just so cool. That's not the right word, but I feel like it should have I put it in there anyway. Whatever.
Yeah. He was like you said earlier, he knew how to do his job.
And did it
as
well.
an assassin, and did it very well. Going to the ending.
Yes.
Like, I was, man, I honestly don't remember. Did he die? I can't remember. I'm drawing a huge blank because the shootout is so cool. I forgot the ending.
Kamimura?
Yeah.
So he's alive and he was limping away with bullet holes in him.
That's right. Another very Western thing is to end it kind of ambiguously.
Yeah, it was either
where it's just like right after the action happens.
2 or 3 times he got shot. So he got shot in the shoulder and I think his leg. I don't remember if he got shot a 3rd time, but he was definitely limping away with bullet holes.
But I mean, that's just how cool the shootout is that I completely forgot how it ended. And I was kind of worried that it was going to be like, you know, he had like 10 guys coming for him, and I was kind of worried. As much as I love John Wick, in the first John Wick, it's just like he seems unstoppable. Yeah. And it gets to the point where he gets more and more injured and everything. But with this, I was worried that he was going to come away completely unscathed. But with how they ended it, if you told me that he, you know, died right after it cut to black, I'd believe you. If you told me that he made it back to the barge and lived happily ever after, I believe you. But I'm glad that they didn't show us either way.
Yeah, they left it open-ended for you.
Yeah, he accomplished his goal of killing all the gangsters, but it wasn't a happy or sad ending. It was just, he's a badass, and he continues to be a badass even with his fake Hawaiian license.
I think the last little showdown is definitely the best part of the movie, because
absolutely
it shows all of the best parts that they could do. So all of the music was great, the showdown itself was great. I'm a little weary on how open it was, and they were all just like missing shots, but you know, they're not all going to be fucking absolute class A snipers with these things. But how open it was, how close they were, and still missing shots, like they were stormtroopers. That was my only nitpick with it. But But oh my god, the camera work, the shots, all of it, the just the choreography with it was all so fucking cool and badass. And
it kind of made you forget about that. It's like,
you immediately like, I'm in this. Go, fucking shoot at that guy.
I know when someone's moving, he's pretty much moving the entire time, which is what makes it so electric.
Yeah.
Which makes it somewhat believable because, you know, you really have to lead your target if it's a moving target.
Yep.
And so especially if you were kind of hoping to ambush him and get him before he started moving, him moving might be a surprise. So there is like plausible deniability or plausible, you know, ways that it would work out. That he would only get shot 3 times out of all that. But yeah, I agree that it kind of, you know, it would have been nice if it was like a junkyard and he had ways to get cover.
Yeah, just like maybe like a broken fridge next to him or something like it. But again, it's like whatever, out of sight, out of mind to it. I think
again, the way it's shot makes you forget about that pretty much immediately.
Oh, dude, the setting was, especially on those long far shots, the setting was just so fucking cool looking. I mean, it was like a landfill, so it was just like there wasn't trees or anything, but it was just straight just this huge exterior shot and just like him standing there and just looks so fucking cool, especially when it's zoomed in on him all the way and then it zooms all the way out to all the guys in the car. I was like, dude, whoa, I got to take some Tums. That gave me heartburn how cool and hot that was at the same time. Jesus. Whoa. The whole final like act, the whole showdown is just probably one of the best pieces of cinema I've seen, at least from, you know how I am with older movies, but like all the older movies, like this one is like fucking killer.
Well, that's the thing about older movies that a lot of people, I like older movies because you get to see like the first time things were done. Mm-hmm. But to a lot of people, it's just, I can see why it's a little boring because you don't see the things that weren't done until like 15, 20 years later that are staples in films today. Mm-hmm. So I do understand that gripe with classic films. But yeah, this other than like a few of the talking scenes, the action scenes really do feel like ahead of their time for, you know, the 60s, 1967. Yeah. So it really did just make a great viewing experience. And honestly, I'm shocked I haven't heard about this until Streaming Roulette. This seems like a movie a lot of my film friends would love.
It's kind of crazy because there's not even that much like, I mean, normally we look at like the trivias and such like that, or like goofs or whatever. There's not even that many. There's just one thing in here about a trivia piece for IMDb at least. Yeah. I'm sorry, 2 things, but like still, that's only 2 things. And like I've never heard of this movie, and not many people seem to be talking about it. So yeah, it's cool that we got it on Criterion at least.
Yeah. According to Letterboxd, out of all the people I know, you and I are the only ones that have seen it. So we got to start sharing this movie with people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. We're here to share movies. But you know, closing thoughts. I don't really have too much else to say. I just loved the. I'm going to say it again. The vibe.
The vibes, man.
I loved how cool and suave this movie was, and how, you know, it really did just feel like a movie that would inspire Quentin Tarantino or even Guy Ritchie or something to make some of their films. And that's why I love old movies, because you see where inspiration comes from for so many directors. And that ending, like I enjoyed it the entire time, but I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. But then that ending, I was like, whoa!
Yeah, that ending was icing on cake, baby.
Yeah. And there's a few parts in the middle where it's kind of a little too slow for my liking. And it did feel a little longer than an hour, 24 minutes because of those parts. But they didn't ruin the movie because, you know, once they were gone, it got back into the quick-paced, suspenseful aspects of it. And I also just love the bromance in it, too.
Like bromance, baby.
He tucks him into bed. He tucks Shun into bed.
And
none of my friends have tucked me into bed.
He had Mina so pissed off and envious. She's like, I envy you guys for being friends
Glen,
like that.
Would you tuck me into bed?
I would tuck so many things, especially you into bed.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I just love it. It's just such a it's a great film. It's a great film.
Thank you, Streaming Roulette, for this little piece.
Yeah. Every now and then we get a film that I'm just like, I'm really glad we do Streaming Roulette, because I would not have seen that otherwise.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So that does it for the review of A Colt Is My Passport. That brings us on to the judgment. As always, it needs to be a unanimous decision whether or not it goes to the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle or Handmaiden. Don't say it yet. Don't say it yet. Coin flip generator. Glenn, heads or tails? Tails. All right, you get to go first. Does this go on the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden?
I would like to say that I think it does go on the shelf. Overall, the world building, the characters, the music, although sadly a little bit repetitive, the music, I think the showdown at the end was just sealed it all up to definitely say yes. But I think even before the showdown, I was even teetering to be like, this is a really good movie. But yeah, overall, I think it was just fucking fanatical. And would recommend anybody to watch it for sure. Especially if you're a Tarantino fan, Scorsese, anybody like that. Like you said, Guy Ritchie too. If you're fans of those guys, you're definitely, I think, going to enjoy this for sure.
Yeah. So I would agree. I was like you. I was kind of teetering towards putting it on the entire time, and then when the shootout came, the side of me that was leaning no completely fell off the seesaw, and I just fell into the yes category. So, whoa! It's just such a good movie. It's you could tell it's inspired a lot. It's electric. It has a lot of really cool characters in it, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm again, thank you to Streaming Roulette for bringing this up. The Streaming Roulette gods.
Yes, you bastards. Thank you so much.
Watch this. you bastards. So, A Colt Is My Passport does go on the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. That brings us to our assignment for next week. It is my turn to pick again, and I'm going to go back into my little list of movies and have Glenn pick a number between 1 and 43.
I do like this game. Let me go with number... Let me go with 30.
30?
Yes.
Okay, so that is going to be the movie Living in Oblivion.
Oh.
Walk it up. Okay, here we go. And roll sound.
Nick Rev is making a movie.
Action. He's wonderful, isn't he?
It's something most of us only dream of doing.
How'd you get into cinematography?
No, I'm directing this movie.
How'd you get into directing?
But for Nick,
Hey, Bob! Hey, Bob!
Rolling.
the dream
Cut! Do I have to do everything myself here?
is becoming a nightmare.
What is your name anyway?
Clear the set.
Steve Buscemi,
I freak out in your dream, I freak out in my dream, no wonder I'm exhausted.
Sounds kind of like an identity crisis.
Catherine Keener,
Nick,
Yeah?
nothing.
Dermot Mulroney,
Hey, that's my iPad!
Can I borrow it, Wolf? Nick, it just feels right.
James LaGrosse,
I play a sexy serial killer that shacks up with Winona Ryder.
in a love story filmed somewhere between fantasy,
I can walk through just about anything, like air.
reality,
I think you could see I'm under a little pressure here.
and oblivion.
Living in Oblivion, Scene 6, take 1, let's do that!
Kiss my ass!
Yeah! Right, now we're making a movie!
Living in Oblivion, the new film by Tom DiCillo.
Living in Oblivion is written and directed by Tom DiCillo or DiCillo. It is starring Steve Buscemi, Catherine Keener, Dermot Mulroney. I believe Peter Dinklage is in there, maybe?
Peter Dinklage.
Yes. It is this ultimate tribute to all independent filmmakers takes place during one day on set of a non-budget movie. 1995, hour 30 minutes, 7.5 on IMDb, 81 Metacritic score. And this is going to be pretty much on all of the free things. You got Tubi, Roku, Plex, Peacock, Freevee, Crackle, Fandor, I guess. But that might be a subscription thing.
I do be a fan of that.
Yes. So, I first watched this movie in film school. My film analysis or film history class, I can't remember what it was, put this on because it is a comical, showing of a film set. And, I'm not going to withhold what I thought about it.
Okay.
But, I at the very least, you can know I think it's worth a rewatch. So that is our assignment for next week. Living in Oblivion.
Can't wait to watch some young Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, and young Peter Dinklage. Young Dermot Mulroney. And young Catherine Keener. And young Danielle von Zernick.
I'm sure the vibes back then were pretty awesome.
The vibes were vibing. So, yes, that is going to be on all the free things, Freevee, Crackle, Tubi, Roku, what have you. Living in Oblivion, that is our assignment for next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. As always, you can check out our website at www.keystonefilmreview.com. On Instagram, we are Keystone_film_review. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Keystone Film Review. And on Letterboxd, I am Mike, KFR.
And I'm Glen, KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we hold for 30 seconds to record room tone.
Fucking eyes!
Okay, we got to do room tone again. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.